Welcome to No Compromises, a peek into the mind of two old web devs who have seen some things. This is Joel.
And this is Aaron.
I feel like there's kind of a pattern in the advice that we give, and it's advice based on our experience and maybe seeing what other people do. But it's this idea of kind of like making the most of what the framework gives you, but also like not being tied in by that. And so I thought today, building on that topic, I could give a specific example we can talk through and some specific areas that this might come up in a project. Sound good?
Yes, let's do it.
You sound so excited, Aaron. I love it. Um, so Eloquent, right? This is the way that we interact with the database in Laravel projects. And I think it's actually one of the nice selling features of using a framework is having like a handy way to do that. And it's probably the default way I would say it should be of accessing a database. But there are some examples, specific examples I can give where I think it's good to not be completely focused on Eloquent and to remember like, hey, we can like access the database in more direct ways. Like maybe we can use the DB builder or in even in rare circumstances, maybe we can write a little bit of SQL and why we might do that.
Okay.
So the first one I thought of, and this comes up a lot, um, not like every project, but it comes up enough that it's a pattern that jumps to my mind, which is you're fetching a table of records.
hmm
Let's I don't know, people. Let's say we're fetching a table of people, users. Okay, um, but I want to sort those users by a related record, which is like the company they belong to. And there's not a way that I'm aware of to do that in Eloquent. So I've seen this tackled other ways where people fetch all the users, then they like sort the collection in the controller, and then they pass that to the view, and they're not leveraging the database to do some of that work. So I don't know. I'm going to tee this up for you, Aaron. I feel like I've been talking a lot. Like, do you is that do, first of all, do you agree that's a scenario we bump into? Eloquent can't do it, and like, what would you do in that scenario?
Yeah. So the idea, I guess you're saying, is to sort it by a joined records column.
Yeah, you used a key word there. I noticed.
Okay. I'm still trying to follow where you're going. So keep going.
Okay. All right. All right. So the point is, in Eloquent, I cannot say users order by users dot company dot name or something like that. Like that's if I could invent a feature, that would be something nice to have. I can order by any record or any field on the users table. I cannot order a query, Eloquent query result based on a related table. I can eager load those records, but I can't sort by it. Following?
Well, you've kind of said something that I'm not sure I fully understand because I want to make sure that we're still talking about using our tools properly.
Okay.
But it sounded like you're saying that if I do some sort of join or order, I can't use Eloquent at all. I don't follow what you're
Okay.
saying.
All right. So as typical, you can't read my mind, and I really
Hmm.
don't like that about you, Aaron. But let's work with it. So, um, no. So you can. I could start user colon colon. Where whatever, and then you can do a join based on that. The thing is, as soon as you use that method, now I'm no longer in eloquent land. And what I mean by that is the result I get back is not going to be an eloquent collection of user models. It's now going to be like a DB builder result that comes back. And so if I really want a collection of users back, I can't purely stay in eloquent land to get that if I want to sort by a related table or relationship on that record. Does that am I doing a little better explaining it to you now?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, it's a pretty nuanced thing because now you got my brain going because I'm like,
Okay.
I wonder if there's a way that I could use a sub select and then but
Oh yeah.
I think I follow what you're saying
Yeah.
is there are times when let me see if I can rephrase it a different way.
Okay.
It sounds like we're saying start out with the eloquent model, do the standard things as
Yep.
time gets or as your requirement gets more complexity, you may find that you have to reach out to something else that's available to us on the Eloquent model, but it takes us down a lower level. And then we
Yes.
start working with more generics where we kind of, maybe we're with the Eloquent Builder, I think that's what it's called, but it's
Yeah.
kind of like a database builder now. And
Right.
it's a little bit lower level and things like that. Okay. Now
Yeah,
I'm following.
and so you did a nice job of summarizing the point I was trying to make, which is like this is still a tool the framework gives us, this DB builder. It's not as high level a tool as Eloquent is, and it might require a little bit more work on our part to like use the data it returns because it's I'm not getting a user back, I'm just getting like this DB record back. But it doesn't mean we should rule it out. You probably don't want to reach for it all the time, but it's there, and ultimately Eloquent's using it under the hood anyways. But it's just another tool in the toolkit when you need to reach for it. That's kind of like the point I'm making.
What's nice about it then is you can start out with all of the built-in guardrails and definitions and stuff of the Eloquent model, and then just drop down to only the specifics that you need.
Yeah,
The alternative, which I think maybe you're kind of leading towards next, was you can actually go directly to like the DB facade or something like that and start
sure.
writing almost lower level queries. Oh, there's various different ways to do it,
Yeah.
but why would we, if we're gonna not have user models anyway, I guess, why would we not just go to that database then, right?
Yeah, I mean I think that's kind of a call that you make as a team. I don't think we can give one universal answer to that, but to me, it's like if I could do 90% of the job with the tool the rest of my application is using, I'm going to do that. I'm not going to say like, well, because this whole scenario can't be accomplished with that tool, I'm going to completely eject and do the whole thing differently. So it's sort of like taking advantage of what you can to the point that you can't.
I think the other thing that we should probably bring up too is there is a giant manual for Eloquent.
There
It's
is.
a whole it's a whole section of the manual in Laravel talks about Eloquent and
Yeah.
lots of different. I mean, it's pages and pages, and
Yeah.
that sounds boring to read. But if you know me, I love that sort of thing. But the reason I bring that up is because the other thing is, remember, there's a whole bunch of guardrails and tools and stuff inside of Eloquent that protect us from a lot of the silly things that we might do.
Yeah.
You could argue that if you know what you're doing, you don't need that, or sometimes it makes it worse for us. I get that. But for the most part, it's going to protect us from some stuff. So we want to make sure we don't maybe go down the wrong route right away.
Yeah.
Take some time to read that manual,
Yes.
go on Stack Overflow, ask some people, is there an optimal way to accomplish this with Eloquent before I start moving down a level?
Yeah, and like as you were talking, it connected to something off air we were discussing, which is like if you dropped a DB, like things like maybe an observer or other things aren't going to fire too. So like you kind of have to factor that in too. Is it's not just the developer experience of using this tool, but like it could actually affect other functionality in the app. So it's an excellent
And I
point.
should say you meant lower your code level to DB, not drop a DB.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate choice of words. One more thing I just want to throw out on this
Mhm.
topic. Sometimes Eloquent has a very nice, expressive way of doing something that, depending on how much data you have or how your database is structured, will not perform well. And I've run into this the hard way, through personal experience. And like a specific example I'm thinking of is there's a really nice where has, and you can pass it even additional query parameters in there, like I want to get all the users that have a company where the owner signed up before this date. Like you can express that in a very eloquent way, but depending on how the query it generates, it might not perform to your satisfaction. And maybe you can throw an index on it or whatever to make it faster, but sometimes you can't. Like on a project I'm thinking about, we literally couldn't. It was just there were so many records. We rewrote part of that query using the DB builder just for performance reasons. And again, I can just sense what you're going to say, Aaron, but like the caveat is like, don't go nuts with this. But like when you face a real problem, just know this is a tool in the toolbox to like pull out to try to make performance better as one option. Things have cycles in life, fashion, um, styles come and go, but they kind of come
I think
back.
I have two of them. I have a bicycle.
All right. Okay. Um, but like technology kind of doesn't. Like the only thing I can maybe think of is like, vinyl records came back in. But that's like a pretty niche thing. But generally speaking, like technology marches forward, new things replace old things. But in my family, my kids are like obsessed with older technologies. And now some of it, like, oh, classic video games, like I can get behind that. But floppy disks, like my son wanted me to put a floppy disk drive in his computer because he just thought it was cool. And I'm like, in what universe is a floppy disk cool?
This is all from people who didn't have to experience the pain of actually using these things for real.
Yeah.
And like knowing that your college dissertation is on a floppy disk and you have to walk around with two of them because one of them might not work. Oh, don't get me started, man.
This is no exaggeration. My son the other day said, "Dad, like, do you think dial-up still works?" And I'm like, "We don't even have like copper phone wires in this house. I don't know how you're going to experience dial-up, but it's not going to be here." And just this weird stuff, like my 13-year-old son, we were in somebody else's car, and it was kind of an older car, and he's like, "You have knobs. This is cool." Like, all of the cars now, they have like push button things and it's like digital displays. There was a
Yeah.
knob and he thought that was interesting.
Well, I mean, I understand that because I want some. I miss the good old days of being able to reach out and not have to look at the screen when
Yeah.
you're driving the speed limit down the road.
Yeah, there were some advantages, I get it, but it's just weird to hear coming from young kids that never experienced it in the first place.
Yeah, yeah. It's nice every once in a while to kind of shake off the cobwebs and get a new start and work on yourself.
And one of the ways you could do that is by joining the Mastering Laravel community. Head over to masteringlaravel.io, click on community to see what it's all about.